what began as a pretty normal day for these 10 guys took a turn in a direction that none of them saw coming and ended up being the best day of their lives. But these weren't like 10 normal guys. What was interesting about these 10 guys is that they were a mixture of guys that were both Jews and Samaritans, which was unique because typically Jews and Samaritans didn't associate with each other because of their differences and their prejudices. But these 10 guys had something in common with each other that was greater than these differences. And that is that they were all lepers. Now, leprosy was a skin disease, right? For some people, it would just be something maybe as simple as some discoloration in the pigmentation of your skin. And for others, it would be sores on your skin that could progress and create nerve damage or limb deformities, or in worst case scenarios, amputations. And if all of that really isn't bad enough, it gets worse because leprosy is contagious. Which means that if you had leprosy, you would be sent out, kicked out into the outskirts of town. You would be literally sent out of the camp that you lived in. So you're not living life in community. You say goodbye to your wife and your husband and your kids, your family. You're not going to the temple to worship because you're not allowed to go there. You are just sent out by yourself. And if you happen to see anybody that happens, is lost in your neck of the woods, you have to yell out, "Unclean," so that they know to keep a safe distance from you. And so that's the life that these 10 guys are living, a horrible life. And one day, as they're sitting together in their village, they see someone enter into their village from across the way, and as it starts to kind of come clear who it is, one guy is about to yell out, "Unclean," to keep the distance, and his buddy kind of puts his hand on his arm as if to say, "Wait." And he looks and says, "Isn't that Jesus? I've heard about him, this Jewish rabbi person. There's these rumors that he's a miracle worker. He performs this stuff on people and does things." And so these 10 guys, they get up and they go to Jesus. They get as close as they can. They keep their safe distance that they're required to do. And they say, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." And Jesus says to them simply, "Go, show yourself to the priest." And they immediately take off running to the priest. Because go show yourself to the priest, that's code for you are healed. Because it was required by law to go to the priest. The priest would be the one that would declare you clean, which meant then you can return back into community, see your family again, go back to the temple worship, so on and so forth. And so they take off going to the priest. And somewhere along the way, we don't know where, we don't know when, somewhere along the way, one guy looks at his buddy and kind of realizes, "You look different. I see you for the first time. Your sores are gone." Another guy looks down, he sees his deformities, they start to become normal again. Another guy starts to feel the earth under his feet as his nerve endings come alive again. And all 10 of them they just stop. And they just have this moment of just shock and awe at what has happened to them. And one of them takes a step backwards. And he says, we gotta go back. We gotta find this guy and thank him for what he's done. And the other 9 look at him like, "Man, we're with you, but we gotta get to the priest. Because when we get to the priest, we can get home." And so they part ways, and the 9 go off running toward the priest, and the one goes back to that village, and he finds Jesus, and he falls down in front of Jesus, his face to the ground, says, "Thank you, Jesus." He's praising God. "Thank you, God, for healing me." And Jesus looks at him and says, "Weren't there 10 of you that are healed? Where are all your friends? Why is there only one that has come back?" And he tells the man, "Hey, you can get up and go. Your faith has made you well." Now, when we hear a story like this, it's always good to ask ourselves a couple questions. One question is, where do we see God in this story, and what is he doing? And in this story, of course, that's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to answer. But another question that's good for us to ask ourselves when we come across a story like this is, where do we see ourselves in this story? Where am I? And if I were to ask you, hey, where are you in this story, right? We would all at least want to say, hey, I am the one. You know, I'm that one guy. I mean, maybe not every time, I'm not perfect, but almost all the time, I'm the one guy, and I'm gonna go back to Jesus and say thank you to him. And maybe we are, but maybe at times, and maybe more often than not, we're more like the 9 than the 1. And not because we're bad people. I don't think those guys were bad guys. There's a whole bunch of other, we'll look at the reasons later, but maybe we're more like the 9 than the 1 because of the other stuff in the places that we just want to get to. And so I want us to think about gratitude this morning. As we've heard, it's Thanksgiving weekend, and gratitude is one of those things that's a skill that we actually develop, right? I mean, we don't come into this world, we're not born just thankful people, grateful people. We come out kicking and screaming, literally, and let's be honest, it doesn't really change. It just takes on different shapes and forms, but we never really stop that. Gratitude is a skill that we develop. It's why parents to their kids, what are the 2 things we try to teach our kids as young as we can? Please and thank you, right? Why? Why are we trying to teach them that? Because they're doing the exact opposite. No please, no thank you. So it's not natural. It's a skill that is developed. It's why then with our kids, we come across books like Winnie the Pooh, I have it up here, and we read stories like this over and over. Piglet, he noticed that even though he had a very small heart, it could hold a large amount of gratitude. And we're like, do you hear, do this? Do it for Piglet, if nothing else, for the love, be thankful. Okay, we can put Piggy away. It's a skill, and like any skill, here's the thing. Any skill that we stop practicing, we start to kind of lose it, right? Any skill that we stop practicing, we begin to lose it, and it's possible that we can become maybe more ungrateful or more like the 9 than we fully realize. So I just want us to think about gratefulness, how we become more that way. And here's what I think where gratefulness begins. It begins by recognizing our needs and God's mercy. So if you have a Bible, turn over to Luke 17. I want us to read the story that I paraphrased a moment ago. I do want us to read together. It's Luke 17, verse 11. And we'll read the first few verses together. Now, on his way to Jerusalem, Jesus traveled along the border between Samaria and Galilee. As he was going into a village, 10 men who had leprosy met him. They stood at a distance and they called out in a loud voice, "Jesus, Master, have pity on us." And when he saw them, he said, "Go, show yourselves to the priest." And as they went, they were cleansed. See, these guys were aware of their needs, but sometimes our pride and ego can get in the way of us realizing not so much maybe the surface needs, but the deeper spiritual or soul needs that we have. When I was thinking of this, I was thinking of the movie Family Man. Nicolas Cage is in it. You probably know him from Ghost Rider. When he was on fire on the motorcycle. I can tell from looking at you. Just kidding. But Family Man, great movie, Christmas movie as it turns out, so you can all watch it today. And in the very beginning of it, Nicolas Cage, his name is Jack in the movie. He comes across this guy who's kind of off the streets, looks like he's a troubled guy. Jack, however, is this wealthy, powerful business guy in a super high up position. And he has this confrontation with this guy, and he says to him, hey, maybe there's something I could do to help you out. You look like you're in trouble. You look like you need some help. And the guy looks at me and goes, are you trying to save me? And Jack says, well, yeah, I mean, there's probably some program that you can get into or something like that. I mean, everybody needs something. I mean, what can I do for you? And he looks back at Jack and he says, well, what do you need? And he goes, well, what do you mean? He said, well, you just said it. You just said it. Everybody needs something. So what do you need? And Jack looks at him and he says, well, I have everything I need. And then the whole rest of the movie is him in ways discovering deeper needs in his soul that he wasn't even aware of that he had. Gratitude begins with us recognizing our needs. And this is what I love about mission trips. I'm so happy. I think I heard that like over 300 of you signed up to go on mission trips next year, on one of them next year in 2020. And mission trips are great for this because especially if it's your first time going, what typically happens is you get to this place, you land on the ground, and at day one, day two, all you see are the incredible needs of the people in front of you. I mean, you look at what they're wearing, you're like, oh my God. I mean, look at that one dirty, ripped up shirt. I mean, they need clothes. You look at the lack of medical care that they have. Man, they need medical. You look at maybe what they're living in or their food or their lack of clean water. I mean, it's just all you see are their needs. And as the trip progresses, and definitely by the end of it, that whole paradigm totally shifts upside down. And all of a sudden, you begin to see all of the things that they have and all of the needs that you have that they don't have. You start to see their relationships and their friendships and their connections, and you're like, man, I still am looking for and in need of belonging. But these people, man, they seem to have it. You look at how they have joy and peace in the midst of circumstances that you know if you were in those circumstances, even half as bad. I mean, you'd be in turmoil, it'd be horrible, it would be ugly, you'd be complaining, and they're somehow joyful and at peace, and you're like, I need contentment that they have, that I am in need of. You know, you just look at how they live life with each other and have time and enjoy it and can do things. And you're always saying to people, man, if I need more time, if I just had more time. You begin to see all the things, all the deeper needs that we have. And gratitude begins by recognizing those. And Jesus comes along. He sees our needs. And when we see them, when we humble ourselves, he pours out his mercy over us and fulfills our needs. I love that in the story. It said that he saw them. He saw their misery. He took notice of these nobodies. And believe me, these guys were nobodies. Literally social outcasts. Jesus notices them and he pours out his mercy on them. He says, go show yourself to the priest, which essentially was Jesus saying, you can have your life back. And when we recognize our needs and we humble ourselves, we go to God and we just accept his mercy. He's doing the same thing for us. He's giving us life back. And if gratitude begins by recognizing our needs, I think it really grows when we realize all that we have. Look at the next verse, verse 15. As the story goes on, it says that one of them, when he saw that he was healed, came back praising God in a loud voice. Gratitude grows when we realize what we have been given. This one guy realized, I am healed. Look what I have. Look what I've been given. And he goes back to show gratitude and thanks to God. And we have a problem with that, right? Because no matter how smart you are, and I can tell from looking at you, you're really, really smart people. And see it all over your face. Super smart. No matter how many times you've heard what I'm about to say, and you've all heard it 100 times, I'm going to say it again. Because we still fall into the trap of comparison, and envy creeps into our heart and soul, and we just think, man, if I just had that, then I could be thankful. Man, if I was just more like that person, then I would be grateful, because then I would have what I need. If I could just be more like them. And we're not realizing what we've already been given and what we have. We just think if only I can make it to the land of Ur, then I'll be happy, thankful, grateful. The land of Ur, I heard someone explain it, the land of Ur is if I could just be prettier, then I'd be grateful. If I could just be better than that person, then I would be grateful. If I could just be richer, if I could just be smarter, if I could just be thinner, if I could just be nicer, that if I could just make it to that land, all would be well. And I'd be the happiest, most thankful person in the world. Then we make it to and we're like, man, if I can just make it to the island of Est. Oh, if I could just be the thinnest and the smartest and the bestest, then I'd be the gratefulest. It's all just a big trap that we just find. It doesn't work. Doesn't work, right? We never make it there. Gratitude grows when we realize what we've been given. So here is your homework, and I'm not done, so don't get too excited. Here is your homework. Start counting. Start counting. What are the blessings and mercies that God has poured out over your life, that he has given you, that you have? What are those? Today is December 1st. So whatever day of the month it is, I want you to write that many things down that you're thankful for. So today, you only have one. Good start. Tomorrow's December 2nd, you're gonna write 2 things. On the 3rd, you're gonna write 3 things, so on and so forth. The only rule is that, come up with new ones. You can't repeat them. If I did my math right, and I probably didn't, it's gonna total about 500. Here's a question. Is it possible that there are 500 things that go unnoticed that we are ungrateful for but should show gratefulness for? Probably. I mean, I know it's gonna get a little challenging when we get to the 20s and the 30, but start counting. We start writing down. If you have a journal, do it there. If otherwise, go on your phone and notes, start a new note that says gratitude, and whatever day it is, write down that many things that you're grateful for. Because as we remember them, as we practice the skill, right, of gratitude, we become more grateful people. So that's your homework. Gratitude is a defining mark of a Christian life. And this is why we're talking about this. This is why this is important. This is why we're having this conversation. Gratitude is a defining mark of a Christian life. But I want to take it one step further because I think there's one other really important thing in this story that takes place. And it's this, and it's the kind of the main thing I want you just to really remember from today is expressing gratitude is a defining mark of a Christian life. Expressing it. Here, think with me. Let's catch up to the 9 guys. Let's go catch up with them. Hey guys, come here real quick. Hey, were you the 9 guys that 30 minutes ago had leprosy that Jesus just healed? Yeah, that's us. And now you're totally cleansed? Yeah, he healed us. It's crazy. Quick question for you. Are you thankful that Jesus did that? Are you thankful? I think they're gonna look at us like that is the stupidest question they've ever heard in their life. They're gonna say, what do you mean, are we thankful? Dude, of course we're thankful. Of course, are you kidding me? That was a death sentence, literally. A death sentence that we just got cured from. Of course, we're thankful. So the issue then, the question is not, why is one thankful and why are 9 unthankful? The question is, why does one express gratitude and the other 9 don't express gratitude? And my guess is, I get it. Hey, I gotta get to the temple. I've gotta get to the priest. Because when I get to the priest and he says, turn around, okay, you're clean. I can go see my family. I can enter back into community. I mean, I get my life back. So I get it. I get it. But what about this one that says, no, I have to go back? Because if gratitude is unexpressed, it's like we're ungrateful, right? The perception. I mean, we could be the most thankful, we could be the most grateful, but if it's unexpressed, it's as if it's not there. And so I just want us to think about a few ways of expressing gratitude. How do we express gratitude so that we do truly reflect the one and not the 9. Verse 15, once again, it says, one of them, when he saw that he was healed, came back praising God in a loud voice. When he saw that he was healed, he came back. See, expressing gratitude is costly. It's costly. That guy made a decision. Yes, I want to get to the priest like the 9 of you do. I want that right now more than anything, but I need to pay the cost. I need to go back and find this guy to tell him thanks. It's just because it's that important to me, and it's the only way that I can express my gratitude. It's going to cost me something. And this is often why we don't always express our gratitude. It's not because we're bad people, right? The 9 guys, I don't think they were bad guys. I even think they were thankful, right? But they just had something else that was more important at the time, and they didn't want to pay the cost of doing it. So for example, right? I really want to call mom and thank her for what she did. But I know if I call her, I haven't talked to her in like a week or maybe 2, 3, not sure. And she's gonna yippity yap for like 20, 30 minutes. I just wanna say, Mom, hey, thank you, I appreciate that, goodbye, right? I wanna express it, but she's yap, and then on, and I don't got that kind of time. I've got a half an hour, I just don't have a half an hour right now to do that. So we just we put it off, right? We divert it, maybe I'll do it later. Maybe later often never comes. It reminds me of when Hayden, my oldest son, he graduated from high school a year and a half ago. So he graduates high school, and we have some of the graduation parties like you do, and he gets the cards and stuff like you do, and then after that, a couple days later, my wife brings out a stack of stationery and a pen and sets it down. And he looks at these foreign objects with, I know not what you bring me, mother. I've used these items in school before, but not in the real world. No need for them in the real world. I do all things with my phone. No understand. And she's like, well, here's what's gonna happen, One card is for each person. You get to write them a thank you for what and he's like, are you kidding me? No, son, this is the cost. This is the cost of expressing gratitude. He's like, this is gonna take me forever. Well, you don't have plans for the next week anyway, so that's the good news. That's the good news. Hey, it's costly. Expressing gratitude is also, it's timely. It's timely. It said in verse 15 that one of them, when he saw that he was healed. I think one of the best ways that we can express our gratitude is when we do it in the moment. In the moment. My guess is those other 9 guys said, hey, we'll tell him thanks. If we see him again or cross paths with him again, you bet I'm gonna thank him. If I happen to someday, maybe, but just not right now. But this guy, when he saw, when he was healed, he said, no, right now, I need to show it. This isn't a very spiritual point, it's just a very practical one. That sometimes the best way to express gratitude is right when something happens, right when the person does something for us. It's in that moment. It's in that moment that we say, I'm gonna right now express my gratitude. Because if I wait, if I neglect it, if it becomes a few days, a week, a month, let's be honest, it's gonna be awkward, it's gonna be weird, it's gonna feel like too much time has passed, I'm not gonna do it. It's timely, but what stands out as much as anything is the sincerity from this guy as he comes back. So let's read the rest of the story. Verse 16. He threw himself at Jesus' feet and he thanked him, and he was a Samaritan. And Jesus asked, were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Has no one returned to give praise to God except this foreigner? And then he said to him, rise and go, your faith has made you well. So this man was a Samaritan, right? He was the foreigner. And sometimes when we think we're the least deserving of something, maybe we're the most apt to give sincere or to show sincere gratitude for it. But he falls down at Jesus' feet. He's praising God. He's thanking him. You could tell the sincerity that this man has. This is not a flippant, half-hearted, hey, thanks, pat on the back, appreciate what you did. I mean, this is true, heartfelt sincerity that results, he's praising God for who he is and what he has done in his life. God, you've poured out your mercy on me. You've healed me. Thank you. Thank you. And Jesus recognizes this. He notices this. And this is the same type of thing that we do with each other. That's a good thing, right? We praise someone when we want to really show our sincere gratitude for what they've done. So we say something, when everyone at work is gathered around, Mary, would you please stand up? And she's like, uh-oh. And then she kind of slowly creeps up and we say, Mary, what you did on this project last week. You went above and beyond. It was incredible. Thank you for the time and the work and the effort that you put in. You are such a valuable asset to this team. In that moment, how does Mary feel? Yes, totally embarrassed. Okay, granted, I give you that, right? She's red, she's shaking a little bit, cold sweats, all freaking out, right? She's embarrassed a little bit, but she's feeling like $1,000,000. Why? Because sincere, expressed gratitude, listen, it always works. It just works. It works every time. This is why someone has called gratitude the universal currency. It's the universal currency. It works everywhere with anyone in any economy you put yourself into. It works on remote villages on a border between Galilee and Samaria with Jews and Samaritans that don't even get along with each other, with one guy coming back saying thank you. It works. Jesus receives his praise. It works. It works when kids do it with parents. It works when parents do it with kids. It works with anyone, anywhere, and it never runs out as long as we keep practicing the skill to be grateful people. It never runs dry. And certainly this gratitude ultimately is exactly what we are to express to God, which is what this man, of course, does. I got a few verses from Paul when he talks about us expressing our gratitude toward God. In Ephesians, he says, always giving thanks to God the Father for everything in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. In Philippians, in every situation by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. In Colossians, and be thankful, singing to God with gratitude in your hearts. In 1 Thessalonians, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. The question is, are we expressing our gratitude, our sincere gratitude to God for what he has done for us, for the good things that he has done in our lives, even for the hard things and the good that he's bringing out of those hard things? Are we expressing thanks and gratitude toward him? And the ultimate reason, the greatest reason that we have to express the utmost gratitude to God is actually found in this story, but it's so easily missed. It's the first 6 words of the story that we read. Now, on his way to Jerusalem. Why was Jesus on his way to Jerusalem? What was he going to Jerusalem for? Now, on his way to Jerusalem, in the midst of everything going on in Jesus' life, he is Jerusalem bound, because that is where he will give his life. That is where he will lay it down. That is where he will climb up on a cross so that we can be cleansed, right? We are the lepers. We're the lepers. And Jesus climbs up on a cross so that we can be forgiven and cleansed and be made well. The question is, will we be like the one to go back and express that gratitude to God and thank him for what he has